I don't think I've ever heard someone sound so composed and so betrayed as Art did when he recounted the events of that Easter Sunday. He wasn't some poor, confused old man. He was a retired accountant, 63 years old, and razor sharp. But what happened to him is a pattern I see far too often. It's the story of a man whose own children confuse love with entitlement. Art's life had been quiet since his wife, Sarah, passed 5 years ago. He was alone in the 3-bedroom house they bought decades ago, a modest place, now a prime piece of real estate worth millions. The neighborhood had changed around him, filled with young families and the glow of Tesla chargers. But Art hadn't. He was a creature of tradition. He'd hosted every holiday since Sarah's death, clinging to the familiar comfort of her recipes. Easter was no different. He spent Saturday preparing a leg of lamb and Sarah's famous hot cross buns. The house smelled like rosemary in better times. It was his tradition, and he guarded it. His son, Daniel, 32, a pharmaceutical sales rep, arrived with his wife, Britney, and their 2 children, Emma and Lucas. Art observed Britney carrying an expensive bottle of wine, a sure sign he knew that they wanted something. Daniel's hug was stiff, performative. The kids, thank goodness, were still genuine. The trap was sprung not long after they arrived. Daniel and Britney, suddenly focused and present, cornered him in the living room. "Dad," Daniel began, "Britney and I have been talking about your situation." His situation being that he lived alone in a house they desperately wanted. They started with concern, of course. Art was getting older. They worried about falls, about medical emergencies. It was a well-rehearsed script, and Art had anticipated every line. Then came the proposal. Britney's recently retired parents needed a place to live, and Art had 2 empty bedrooms. They'd pay rent, help around the house, and keep him company. "You want your parents to move into my house?" Art stated, his voice level. Britney's pitch went up an octave. It was perfect. He wouldn't be alone. His daughter-in-law painted a picture of communal living, with her mother cooking and her dad fixing things. Art looked at his son, who merely echoed the word, practical, win-win. But this wasn't an innocent conversation. 3 months earlier, Art had received a call from his financial advisor. Someone had attempted to access his investment accounts using personal information. The attempt had been traced back to Daniel's IP address. Art didn't confront him. Instead, he called his estate lawyer, Thompson. Thompson knew the scent of this kind of manipulation immediately. Impatient children testing boundaries. Thompson's advice was simple: document everything. They secured Art's legal standing with a full cognitive assessment, which he passed with flying colors, updated his will with ironclad language, and set up a living trust. And Thompson's masterpiece, hidden cameras in the common areas. If they were planning something, they would reveal it. Dinner started civilly enough, but the conversation inevitably returned to the in-laws. Art waited, then set down his fork. "I appreciate the concern," he said, "but I'm not interested in having roommates. I like my privacy." Britney's smile flickered out. She called them family. Art pointed out he'd met them twice. Her voice went sharp. "You have all this space. What are you even using them for?" "That's my business," he replied. When Daniel pressed him about getting older, Art gave them his final answer. "Eventually, I'll hire help or move to a retirement community on my terms." The kids were wisely sent away, and the pretense evaporated. Daniel called him selfish. Britney was flushed, standing over the table, her anger boiling over into a confession. She was shouting about their drowning mortgage, their childcare costs, and the fact that Art was sitting in a $2 million house like some feudal lord, hoarding space. The final brutal thrust was personal. "Sarah's been gone for 5 years. When are you going to move on and think about someone other than yourself?" "Because I don't want to," Art simply answered. That was the trigger. She grabbed her wine glass and hurled the red liquid at his face, the glass shattering on the table edge. A shard caught Art's eyebrow. He touched his forehead and his fingers came away red. Wine and blood. Easter dinner ruined. Art stood up, calmly telling them he was going to the hospital and that they needed to leave. In the car, driving away, he sent the text that Thompson had been waiting for. Phase 1 is complete. The confrontation had escalated to violence. They had their evidence. Thompson met him at the emergency room. After receiving liquid stitches for the minor cut, Art confirmed his decision. He wanted to press charges for assault. The police noted the elder abuse component. Over 60, assaulted by a family member. Thompson then drove him home. Art pulled up the footage on his office computer. The video was clear, the audio devastating. Britney's unprovoked assault, Daniel's weak attempt at intervention, Art's composed exit. The financial maneuvers and the assault were now connected. They weren't trying to help him, they were trying to control him. Thompson explained that the suggestion about the in-laws was a classic maneuver. Get people in, establish residency, then claim Art was incapable, pushing for power of attorney. They moved on the offense. Thompson filed the financial exploitation complaint. Britney was formally charged with assault. The judge granted Art a restraining order immediately. Britney had to stay 100 meters away. Daniel could only visit with 48 hours' notice. When Daniel finally showed up at the door, unshaven and pleading, Art didn't let him in. He faced his son with the clarity of a man who'd already mourned their relationship. He showed Daniel the cognitive assessment, proof he wasn't paranoid or incompetent. "I've updated my will," Art said. "You're still in it, but only if you respect boundaries. Any attempt to contest it, you get nothing." He had secured the grandkids' future with separate education trusts, managed by an independent party. They would be fine. Daniel's composure finally broke, revealing the true motivation. Britney's parents lost their deposit on a rental because of this. "We were counting on living here." "You were counting on living here," Art repeated. That was the truth he needed to hear. He closed the door, enforcing his boundaries for the first time in years. 6 months later, the legal battles were over. Britney got 2 years probation. The attempted fraud case against Daniel was closed, flagged by the bank, but not prosecuted. Art hadn't responded to any of Daniel's letters. He was going to Scotland, a trip Sarah had always wanted. His life was moving on. He joined a book club, started watercolor classes, and met a widow who makes him laugh. The house wasn't lonely. It was peaceful. But the wedge remained. A crayon drawing from Emma. "I miss you, Grandpa," sent without a return address. He cried, but he didn't call. He couldn't. Daniel wanted the grandkids to be leverage. Thompson says when Emma turns 18, she can reach out on her own. Art said, "That's a decade away." Art had 3 decades left, or maybe 3 years. But however long it was, he was living it on his terms. He chose himself after years of choosing everyone else. "You know what? I sleep fine at night," he told me. "The house is quiet. The doors are locked. The cameras are running. That's not selfish. That's survival." He ended our talk with a powerful piece of advice for anyone dealing with family pressure. Document everything. Get a good lawyer. Set the boundaries. And don't feel guilty for protecting yourself, even from your own blood. Especially from your own blood. Because at the end of the day, you don't owe anyone your peace, not even family.